The atmosphere shifted the moment she entered the courtroom. This wasn't going to be an ordinary hearing. The room, crowded with lawyers, journalists, and anxious relatives, fell silent as the daughter of Teyana Taylor and Iman Shumpert took the stand. There were no flashing cameras or blaring microphones, just a composed young girl standing before a room full of adults, all eager to hear her words. Everyone leaned forward, holding their breath. What she was about to say could change everything. For months, Iman had been locked in a battle for full custody. His attorneys portrayed Teyana as emotionally volatile and incapable of offering the stability their daughter needed. But the moment their daughter began to speak, the carefully crafted image of Teyana started to unravel. Not with outrage, not with tears, but with calm, steady honesty. Her voice was clear and sure. There was no trembling, no theatrics, just truth. "Mom takes care of me," she said, even when she's sad. That one line landed in the room like a thunderclap. Pens stopped moving. Iman's jaw tightened. Teyana, sitting nearby, placed a hand on her chest, fighting back tears. This wasn't a show or some ploy for public sympathy. There was no drama, just a child speaking her truth. And that truth didn't help Iman's case. For months, his legal team had pushed a narrative that Teyana was unstable, her home unsafe, and her new relationship a source of chaos. But now their daughter stood before a judge, quietly telling a different story. And everyone took notice. Even the normally expressionless court officers seemed to shift, eyes fixed on her. One attorney would later say, "I've never seen a courtroom fall silent that quickly." The girl didn't attack her father. She didn't vent or accuse. She simply described her world, what made her feel secure, what made her feel understood. And somehow, that honest reflection spoke louder than any piece of legal paperwork in the room. And just as the room began to settle into that thick, weighted silence, she added one more thing. "Mom's friend is really nice to me. He makes me feel safe." No names, no details, just that. Simple, sincere, and impossible to ignore. But anyone familiar with the case knew exactly who she was talking about. Aaron Pierre, the man Teyana had been quietly seeing. The same man Iman's legal team had tried to paint as an unwelcome and disruptive influence in their daughter's life. A subtle ripple swept through the courtroom, not audible gasps, but a quiet change in the air. People shifted in their seats, a few eyes flicking toward the back where Aaron sat. Still, silent and composed. No words, no reactions, just presence. And strangely, that was what made the biggest impact. Aaron didn't arrive wearing a flashy suit or delivering a rehearsed statement. He didn't try to take on a fatherly role in the moment. He simply stayed in the background, observing, supporting, and remaining silent. And in that quiet, he spoke louder than any words could. Meanwhile, Iman looked as if he'd been winded by a sudden blow. Not because his daughter spoke against him. She didn't. But because she defied the narrative he expected. Or maybe desperately hoped for. He sat motionless, his face drained of color, eyes barely blinking. One reporter even tweeted, "Iman looked like a ghost, like someone who suddenly realized the rules of the game had changed, and he was lost." And honestly, that's exactly what happened. The courtroom drama wasn't supposed to unfold this way. Iman's legal team had their playbook ready, objections queued, arguments prepared, but what they couldn't control was the truth coming straight from their daughter. And that truth had just turned everything upside down. As soon as the child mentioned feeling safe around her mom's friend, Iman's lawyers jumped in with objections. They claimed it was inappropriate for a minor to discuss adult relationships in court. The judge paused, looked at them steadily, then shook his head. "The emotional context is important," he declared. That decision wasn't just a technical win for Teyana. It sent a clear message that the court was ready to hear. The full truth, even if it made some uncomfortable. From that moment forward, the girl began to open up, offering small but powerful insights into her daily life. No dramatic claims, just quiet, honest reflections. She described everyday routines, late-night phone calls, and memories that lingered, like her mom reviewing her homework even through tears, or making pancakes the morning after a tough argument with Iman. These weren't mere anecdotes. They were glimpses into a life that wasn't flawless, but marked by care and love. And that carried weight. Iman's team grew visibly uneasy. His lawyers whispered back and forth, rifling through notes. At one point, someone handed him a paper, but he didn't glance at it. His eyes remained fixed on his daughter, standing just a few feet away, innocently dismantling their meticulously crafted case. Reporters in the gallery typed rapidly, eager to capture every nuance, every tone, every pause. This wasn't a battle over who had the bigger house or a better reputation. It was about the child, and she made it unmistakably clear who she trusted when life got tough. The judge leaned in, eyes sharp, hanging on every word. This wasn't a staged moment. It was something far more rare, a child given the freedom to speak openly and honestly. And that changed everything. When she mentioned overhearing arguments, Iman's team objected once more, arguing that it was traumatic and unnecessary to involve a child in adult disputes. But the judge stood firm and allowed her to continue. That led to one of the most powerful moments of the day. She said, "I don't like it when they fight, but Mom tells me it's knee. It's never because of me, but it's never because of me." Those words hit the room hard. The judge nodded slowly, Teyana quietly wiped away tears, and Iman sat stiff, a vein pulsing at his neck. No one expected this. Most assumed the child would offer polite, vague answers, maybe say she loved both parents, and then step down. But she stayed. She spoke. She opened up in a way that transformed the courtroom from a battleground into something more like a diary being shared aloud. Though she never spoke harshly about Iman, she also didn't portray him as a hero. That silence spoke volumes, creating a gap that Iman's team couldn't fill with rehearsed arguments or pointed questioning. Meanwhile, Aaron Pierre remained seated throughout, silent but present. And when the daughter mentioned feeling safe around him, all eyes quietly turned in his direction. His only response was a subtle shift, a quiet effort to hold back tears in public. No grand gestures, just simply being there. By the time her testimony wrapped up, the courtroom felt completely turned upside down. The polished tactics and rehearsed speeches had given way to something raw, uncomfortable, and deeply human. When the judge thanked the young girl for her courage, a respectful silence settled over the room, not one of shock, but of genuine admiration. Before the day was even over, a courtroom sketch leaked. It captured Iman with his face buried in his hands, shoulders slumped, his posture defeated, like a man who'd lost more than just a legal battle. The image quickly went viral. Within the hour, memes began flooding social media. One read, "When your daughter hits harder than the judge ever could." Another said, "This isn't just a legal defeat, it's a personal one." But beneath the humor, something deeper was unfolding. The online world wasn't mocking a man losing custody. They were witnessing a reckoning, something raw and real that no PR spin or lawyer's words could disguise. It was about truly listening to a child and hearing her for the first time. Support for Teyana and her daughter poured in online, spreading quickly. Hashtags like #BraveQueen and Protect Black Girls trended within hours. TikTok videos analyzed the testimony as if it were a powerful documentary, while supporters gathered outside the courthouse, holding handmade signs and shouting words of encouragement. People weren't just backing Teyana, they were standing with a mother who had been publicly criticized for years, a woman labeled as too emotional, unstable, and complicated to raise her own child. But in just a few sentences, her daughter's testimony turned it all around, validating her fight in the most profound way. According to insiders, Teyana's legal team left the courthouse with a renewed sense of confidence and optimism. One of her closest friends shared, "She didn't coach her daughter. She genuinely listened. That's a completely different dynamic." And just like that, the entire narrative shifted. This wasn't about manipulation, rehearsed lines, or legal strategy. It was a raw, unfiltered moment of truth that cut through all the noise and speculation surrounding the case. However, Iman's camp didn't take the judge's decision lightly. Iman's family reportedly condemned the judge's ruling to allow the young girl's testimony, calling it reckless and inappropriate. Some even accused the child of being coached or influenced, though no concrete evidence ever supported those claims. In fact, Iman's words felt genuine precisely because they were so unpolished and heartfelt. Her voice cracked with emotion, she fidgeted nervously, and she often glanced at her mother for reassurance. All of these signs pointed to a natural, unfiltered presence rather than a scripted performance. This made it even more difficult for Iman's side to spin the story in their favor. The next day, legal experts appeared on morning shows and podcasts to weigh in on the unexpected impact of the testimony. One expert remarked, "Children rarely testify in court, and when they do, their testimony usually doesn't change the outcome significantly." But in this case, the testimony completely shifted the courtroom's dynamic. This moment wasn't just about legal proceedings. It was a powerful reminder that sometimes raw truth, spoken without polish or strategy, can pierce through the strongest defenses. It changed the mood in the courtroom and left everyone wondering how this newfound honesty would shape the case moving forward. The judge didn't immediately deliver a ruling after hearing the testimony. Instead, he took a moment to thank the young girl personally, commending her bravery for speaking up in such a difficult situation. He told her he needed more time to carefully review all the evidence and consider every aspect of the case before making a final decision. That simple act of acknowledgement, of truly seeing and hearing her, shifted the energy in the courtroom. It was clear the judge recognized the weight of her words, and that alone made a profound difference in the atmosphere. Outside the courthouse, a crowd that had gathered to witness the proceedings erupted into cheers and applause, their support tangible in the air. Meanwhile, Aaron Pierre quietly slipped out through the side door, avoiding the cameras and the frenzy of reporters waiting for statements. There were no interviews, no flashes of cameras capturing his face, just a calm, understated exit. His silence spoke volumes. Throughout the entire ordeal, he had stood firmly by Teyana's side without ever making the situation about himself. There were no showy displays or grand gestures, only steady, quiet support. In a courtroom full of loud tactics and even louder egos, that kind of loyalty carried a power and dignity that couldn't be matched by words or theatrics. For Teyana, this legal battle was never solely about winning custody. It was about being seen and acknowledged, not just as a mother, but as a guardian and a constant, unwavering presence in her daughter's life. Through her child's heartfelt testimony, she finally received that recognition. Regardless of how the final verdict unfolds, one thing remains undeniable. Teyana didn't come to court armed with just a team of lawyers. She came armed with the truth, a truth that resonated deeper than any legal argument ever could.